Let's talk about style. What does Gen Z wear to work? By the end of this video, you're going to be ready to address and understand Gen Z's sense of workplace style, and also figure out for your business how much it actually matters. We're going to talk about what Gen Z wears to work and why. We'll also dig into how to address it when they're not showing up at work the way that you need them to. And I'll give some tips on how you can know whether this is a battle worth fighting based upon how much it does or does not impact your bottom line. What does Gen Z wear to work? Well, the answer is it varies. It varies widely. There's a number of factors that are going to impact what a Gen Zer wears to work. Some of those factors include who they are as a person, whether they work at home or in an office, what the nature of the job is, and also if the job actually provides and requires them to wear a specific uniform, or if their clothing choices are from their own personal wardrobe. So when you're addressing a question like this, it's important to understand there's a lot of nuance to it. And whenever there's a lot of nuance, context becomes your primary key to understanding what should happen, why what's not happening isn't happening, and how much it actually matters. Now, let's talk about some of the key things that impact why Gen Zers dress the way that they do. COVID was a big part of it. Most Gen Zers came of age during the period of time before, during, and then following the COVID shutdown and the COVID global pandemic. And during that time, comfort in your clothing was paramount. You also noticed it for several years after the shutdowns ended. Many fashion designers and clothing lines of all levels of luxury really focused on comfort wear. There was a strong sense of athleisure. And so it was really about being comfortable and functional in your clothing. That's the style environment in which most Gen Zers came of age. And so this highly casual approach to clothing naturally is showing up within the workplaces that they work in. The other thing that COVID shutdown did to style at work is it made the entire working environment more casual. Because while offices and businesses were closed, people worked from home. So there was just a much more casual message that was applied to workplace style and how you show up to work dressed appropriately. Another thing that really impacts the way that Gen Zers dress is self-expression. So that's going to also vary widely, but in order to really connect with them on how they should or should not be dressing, you're going to want to find a way to understand their sense of personal style and what clothing means to them. I know this might sound like a crazy topic to discuss with an employee, especially someone that you lead. But if you're a leader who is worried about what your Gen Z employees wear to work or need them to meet a certain dress code, well, then this is a really effective conversation for you to have with your team members. Another key thing to do is tell them what's required of their clothing at work. This is a gap that a lot of us leaders have, where we're upset with the outcome, but we haven't given the guidance necessary for them to change their behavior. And a lot of this is motivated by us thinking that they should already know, right? They should already know what they need to wear to work. Didn't somebody else teach them? The answer in most cases is no. We can really benefit from understanding that most colleges and educational institutions don't teach professional style. They don't teach professional etiquette. Many parents don't teach it. And also, you can't assume that just because somebody might have had a job before they come to your team or your company, that their previous leaders would have taught them as well. So save yourself all kinds of trouble and unnecessary rework and cost, and train them on what you want from them before you start punishing them for not giving it to you. Next, when they asked for accommodations on how they dress at work, accommodate, but don't capitulate. Capitulating in this case would mean that if you have a clear requirement of how clothing needs to be in your workplace, don't change the requirement. Accommodating doesn't mean you change the requirement, Accommodating means you find some way of assisting them to close the gap between what they're currently capable of and what you need them to do. When you change the requirement, you actually add confusion and you add friction. Whenever you change the requirement, you're not bringing clarity. And so it's going to always be best to keep the requirement fixed. Also, if that's what your business needs them to wear, that's what your business needs them to wear. It's your business's privilege and responsibility to set those requirements and to maintain them, and doing so will be of benefit to you and to them. Also, and this is the big one, ask yourself how much it actually matters. Does it actually matter to your bottom line if they're wearing a polo shirt rather than a full sleeve button down? Does it matter when they're in a client meeting if they're wearing a tie or not? Does it matter when they're on an internal call with just their team, their closest peers, that they're wearing a t-shirt with a collared sweater over it, or just a t-shirt at all? I know that this might frustrate some people who are watching, but if you really ask yourself, how much does this matter? It's going to let you be very strategic about what battles you pick. And when it comes to this kind of topic, picking your battles is going to save you a lot of stress and is going to reduce the distance between you and the outcomes you need to generate in partnership with your Gen Z team members. Since so often we make a connection between what somebody wears at work and their work ethic, my video on what is the work ethic of millennials is probably going to be really interesting to you. You can click on the link to that video in the description of this video. It'll take you right there. I'm going to give you all kinds of insights into what is millennials' work ethic and why, and how you can partner with them to get the best business results out of the work that they give.